Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
So you're a Dodge owner, and that dreaded check engine light just popped on. Yep, you're in exactly the right place. We're about to jump into a diagnostic journey to figure out one of the most common trouble codes out there, P0351. Ugh, there's nothing worse than that little glowing engine on your dash, right? It's so stressful. You plugged in your code reader and it spits out P0351. It sounds super technical, I know, but just think of it as the very first clue in a mystery. Let's follow it. Okay, so what in the world does P0351 actually mean? Let's break it down. Your car's main computer, that's the powertrain control module or PCM, has spotted a problem. It's looking right at the ignition coil for cylinders 1, 2, or 3, and it's seeing that the coil isn't building up an electrical charge like it's supposed to. Think of it like this. The PCM is trying to light a sparkler, but the fuse just isn't catching right. That's right, every code tells a story. And we're going to approach this just like detectives, gathering clues and narrowing down the suspects. So grab your flashlight, or, in this case, probably a multimeter, and let's get to work. Every good investigation starts by lining up the usual suspects. And for code P0351, there are 4 main culprits that are almost always behind the trouble. So let's get a good look at our entire lineup before we start the interrogations. And here they are, our 4 suspects. They range from something as simple as a wiring problem to the ignition coil itself, and in some rare cases, even the car's main computer. This table is kind of like our case file. It gives us a bird's eye view of the potential problem and the fix for it. We're going to kick things off with the most common and often the easiest place to look, the wiring. A little glitch in an electrical circuit is a super frequent reason for this code. So let's follow the path of that electricity and see where things went wrong. Now, there are 2 key circuits we need to inspect. First, you've got the ASD relay power circuit. Just think of this as the main power cord that delivers the juice. The second is the primary driver circuit. This is more like the signal wire that the car's computer uses to say, okay, fire now. A problem in either one of these can trigger our code. So for that power supply circuit, your investigation is mostly just going to be visual. You're on the lookout for the obvious stuff, frayed or broken wires, maybe some signs of wear and tear, or that yucky, green, crusty corrosion on the connectors. If you see any of that, replacing that bit of wire is your fix. Now let's move over to that signal wire. Here, you're doing a similar visual check for broken wires, and this is a big one, you're also going to check your fuse box. This circuit is often protected by a fuse, and believe it or not, a simple blown fuse could be your entire problem. So, a word to the wise, always check the easy stuff first. All right, so if the wires and the fuses all check out, our investigation leads us to suspect number 2, the ignition coil itself. Let's take a closer look at this guy. After you've cleared the wiring, it's time to look at the part itself. The ignition coil is a seriously hard-working component, and sometimes it just fails over time. And since P0351 is literally an ignition coil code, it makes perfect sense that the coil itself is often the root of the problem. And the solution here is pretty straightforward, which is great news. You just replace it. Your scanner already told you it's coil 1, 2, or 3. Once you figure out which one is bad, you just swap it out for a new one. It's a perfect example of how a really scary-sounding code can have a surprisingly simple fix. So we've checked the wires and we've checked the coil. If you're still staring at that check engine light, we have to consider our final and honestly our most serious suspect, the PCM. The power control module is literally the brain of your vehicle. It controls pretty much everything. While a failed PCM is the least likely reason for a P0351 code, it's still a possibility we can't ignore. After all, it's the thing that's sending the code in the first place, and sometimes the source is the problem. And this is really, really important to remember. There's an urgency here. A failing PCM isn't something you can just ignore and hope it gets better. It's a critical part, and if it turns out to be the culprit, it has to be replaced right away to avoid even more damage or getting stranded somewhere. Now, let's be clear, this isn't usually a driveway repair. Replacing and programming a new computer for your car takes specialized tools and know-how. But just understanding that this could be the issue means you're not in the dark anymore. You can have a smart conversation with your mechanic, and that knowledge is power. Okay, we've followed the clues, we've looked at the evidence, and we've interrogated all our suspects. Now it's time to close the case by wrapping up everything we've learned. So here's the final report. That P0351 code almost always boils down to one of these four issues: a problem with the power circuit, a fault in the signal circuit from the computer, a bad ignition coil, or, in those rare cases, a failing computer. Think back to where we started, with that annoying, intimidating light on your dashboard. Now you're equipped with a logical, step-by-step process to hunt down the actual cause. You've basically turned confusion into a clear plan of attack. And that's the whole point, right? Whether you're about to grab your tools and start inspecting some wires, or you're picking up the phone to call your mechanic, you're now making that choice with confidence and with knowledge. So the only question left is, what's your next move?